All right, well, good afternoon, students. Thanks for joining us today for our Memorial Hermann, the Woodlands Medical Center Company panel. I am excited to have all of you with us this afternoon. I'm excited to be able to introduce you to Memorial Hermann as a company, but also some of their employees and the people that help make kind of running that hospital system here locally successful, and the work that they do for our community, the support that they are to EfTA, and we're excited to have them here. We know, just as you guys know, and you're tired of me saying this, but healthcare is one of those industries that you guys here in Montgomery County as students are very interested in. And so we are honored to be able to partner with hospitals like Memorial Hermann here in the Woodlands to come and share details about the hospital, share about different careers that are available, share about different education paths that are possible, and just get your questions answered. Just like all of our panels, this is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. If things come up or if they say something, you're like, oh, I need to learn more about that, or oh, I'm really interested in that. Here's your chance. We can't put you guys in in-person internships right now, and this is a great alternative to give you guys experience and kind of fully understanding before you graduate high school and enter into that next phase of life in college and picking majors and all of those things that come with high school graduation. So I will, a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. Students, you can submit questions just like all of our other panels using the Q&A or the chat. We cannot see you right now, but when it is time to ask your question, I'll take you live, ask you to unmute, you'll ask your question, and then you'll go back to the attendee list. So you can submit questions throughout the whole time. This panel will look a little bit different, but if you have questions that come up, just submit them throughout the entire panel. We'll get them answered for you guys in a timely manner to make sure that no question goes unanswered for the next hour and a half. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Linda Nelson, who will get us started from Memorial Hermann, the Woodlands Medical Center.
Thank you, Corinne. Well, welcome students. You are our healthcare professionals for the future. So we always love to speak to rising healthcare students. So today we're going to do three different things. We're going to show a video first. Then I'll be introducing you, and they'll be speaking to several different specialties and two physicians, our chief operating officer. And then we're going to show a video at the end. So we try to change it up a little bit, so it's just not all of us speaking. And like Corinne said, at any time if you have a question, just type it in there. It makes it more interesting for everybody. And don't forget that question that you're wondering whether you should ask or not is something that the other students probably were thinking the same thing. So again, we appreciate you in the middle of your summer to be listening to us. So with that said, we're going to just start with a video that was actually just done at our corporate office. It was for one of our annual meetings that we just thought it might give an overall view of healthcare a little bit.
Houston Food Bank distributed more than 150 million pounds of food, a lifeline for so many struggling to make it day by day.
And now several places and organizations are giving away free masks. It's just another example of Houstonians helping Houstonians in this difficult time.
The fear of catching COVID-19 has kept some people from coming to the hospital. Great Day spoke with Memorial Hermann about the protocols they have in place to make sure you are safe. Houston's high school seniors will be having a graduation ceremony all on the same day.
The ceremony will be virtual, allowing students, friends, and family members to watch from home.
As car after car honked and people cheered.
Celebrations continue in the age of social distancing. These drive-bys are giving folks a way to connect with our loved ones.
Talk to colleagues around the country. We've all worked together. We've seen incredible efforts of organizations and people coming together.
I just wanted to comfort him. I wanted him to know that even though we look like NASA, we're here. And I tried to smile so he could see it through the mask.
Good morning, Lake Creek High School. As much as it frustrates me not to be involved in what's happening, I got to get better so I can get back to that.
I also understand that you've been extremely strong through a very difficult time in your life right now, and you're going through some adversity, and you've been extremely tough and extremely strong through it all.
Just keep breathing, remember? Don't hold your breath.
Well, when I first got here, I was extremely weak.
We were able to get him to the point now where he's helping himself out of bed.
I started getting shortness of breath. I became so dehydrated that I couldn't catch up. That was kind of the impetus for me going into the hospital.
It truly is a historic moment. The first doses of the vaccine arrived early this morning, and the first dose in Houston has been administered.
And boy, it's been a long time coming. Tonight, the news people have been waiting to hear for months.
The CDC says it is now safe for people who are fully vaccinated to ditch their mask in most circumstances.
This is what we need to do to protect ourselves, protect the community, and get back to normal.
So we just had a crazy 14 months and we thought this was a good way just to start off this healthcare panel. So the first person I want to introduce you to is Jason Glover. And Jason is our Chief Operating Officer here at Memorial Hermann, the Woodlands Medical Center. And he's going to show us some pictures and tell us a little bit of a background and information about our hospital.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Linda, and thank you, students, for taking time to be with us. I just have to say that video brought back a lot of memories and emotions for this team. And truly, as I look at the colleagues on the phone here, you are getting to speak to some just everyday heroes with the way that they took care of their teams and patients and just this community throughout the pandemic. So yeah, excited to get to share our experiences with you today. So I'm just going to give you a brief introduction on the hospital. So we are Memorial Hermann, the Woodlands Medical Center. And so when we start any presentation, we like to anchor ourselves to why we are an organization. So our mission is really why we exist as an organization. And so we're a not-for-profit, community-owned health system, and we're dedicated to improving health. So any money that we make, we don't return to shareholders. That all goes back into equipment, serving the community, taking care of the community. And it's not only the acute care side, the hospital side, but it's truly to also improving the health of our community. And that's our vision. That's where we want to go, right? So right now we want to continue to create healthy communities now, but we want to continue to do that for many generations to come. And so that's where we're going. And then we do it through our 4 C's. And you can see our values there with community, compassion, credibility, and courage. All which played an instrumental role in our response to COVID over the last 15 months. So the next slide. So we are part of Memorial Hermann Healthcare System. The Hermann system was actually started in 1907 with the Hermann Hospital down in the Texas Medical Center. So as a system, we've served the community, the greater Houston area, for well over 100 years. We are the largest not-for-profit healthcare system in the region. We have 17 hospitals. We actually have close to what we call dots on the map, but about 300 locations throughout the greater Houston area that are there to serve the community. And that can range from physician offices to imaging suites to ambulatory surgery centers, et cetera. We do have the busiest level 1 trauma center within the nation down at the TMC. And then actually Memorial Hermann, the Woodlands Medical Center is the only other level 2 Memorial Hermann hospital throughout the community. And really the only difference there is that we don't have the school attachment, but we take care of the sickest of the sick and really do a lot of high-end services at this campus. So we opened up in 1985. Currently, we were just shy of 400 beds that we operate. I spoke to the level 2 trauma center. We also have a level 3 NICU where our little infants go, and we take great care of them. And then we have 4 ICUs. We have a CV ICU, so that's where anyone saying has a heart procedure would go. A neuro ICU, so anything with a brain type of invasive procedure, and then a surgical and medical ICU. And then we have 18 operating rooms and some more coming online soon. Dots on the map, kind of beyond our hospital, we actually have just in our community, I believe over 20 different locations throughout the community. So we have anything from surgery centers where we do low acuity surgeries, same day type and invasive procedures. We have medical group locations, so that's our employed physicians. We have a convenient care center, which consists of an emergency room, physician office, and a physical therapy location off of 99. We have an emergency room in the back of the Woodlands off of Hermann. And then we have our sports med and rehab, which includes our Ironman Institute, which is located right off of Pinecroft, and then an urgent care down in Bender's Landing. So quite a breadth and depth of different locations that you can receive care in from Memorial Hermann within your community. So I mentioned that we opened in 1985. So we opened as a 42-bed hospital. And so back then we were delivering babies, maybe doing a few gallbladders. A story that has been told to me that I like to share is when we first opened up, there was really no traffic coming to the hospital. And so in partnership with the township who helped create the hospital, they actually put the park and ride at the hospital parking lot. And so traffic in the parking lot got very full and very busy. And really ever since then, we have not stopped growing. So that's a little bit of a fun fact for how the hospital started. We quickly grew, and 6 years later, we were purchased by the Memorial Hermann Memorial Healthcare System. And at that time, we had 80 affiliated physicians and 200 employees. And we stayed that way until the merger that happened between Hermann and the Memorial System. And so I believe there were 4 hospitals within the Memorial System, and then the big Hermann Hospital and the medical center. And that's what bridged and brought us together as Memorial Hermann. And I'll say what probably really most brought our cultures together was the flood and Hurricane Allison. And during that time is when they had to evacuate the Texas Medical Center very quickly, and patients were distributed across the Memorial hospitals. And it really just showed how the teamwork, collaboration, and the care we provided really made us a community of Memorial Hermann. And so that's really when our cultures blended as a system. In 2003, we began our West Tower expansion. So this was a $78 million expansion. This included cath labs. This is when we added ICU. We started taking care of those high-level infant babies. We more than quadrupled in our physicians that supported the hospital at 450, and then grew to 740 employees. We continued to grow, took another 6 years, but we finished building out the West Tower. And so that grew us from where we started at 42 beds to 252 beds. And then the ER that we opened up in the back of the community off of Terramont was opened in 2009. Just a year later, we quickly filled up and we began our East Tower expansion. And so that added a new 7-story East Tower. And so that opened up, and then we continued to add different programs to that tower. So that's where our joint center is located. We have our tier location there, and continue to fill that out. Next slide. And really, now we're kind of on a growth pace of every 2 years. So in 2015, we began to expand. We put a helipad on the roof to help support our level 2 trauma. We grew to close to 300 beds and almost 2,000 employees. We again expanded in 2016, going to 351 beds. And I'll talk a little bit about our cancer center survivorship later. And level 2, and this is a huge testament to our medical staff and team, it takes a lot of resources and a lot of specialty care to become a level 2 trauma center. and our medical staff really came up to that challenge and have committed to that and really growing our trauma program. And so that became official in 2017. In 2018, that really evolved us into a medical center. Outside of burns and transplants, there's not a lot that we don't do at this medical center. And so there's really a lot that you can do at this campus without having to venture downtown. Following our kind of 2-year growth trajectory, in 2019, we opened a neuroscience floor that included an ICU and then med-surg beds, and we expanded our NICU. And that led us into what we're currently going through. We were just approved 2019 for a $250 million expansion, which will give us a new 8-story patient tower that'll open up sometime the middle of next year. So right around this time next year. So if you get to drive up 45 or by Pinecroft and Research, you will see a beautiful building going up that is here to serve our community as we continue to support the community. So that's a little bit how we got here, just from kind of bricks and mortar and growth. But this is really what anchors us in what we do every day. And so as I started out the presentation, the foundation of why we're here is really in our mission, vision, and values. So just a reminder, that's why we exist, that's where we're going, and that's how we demonstrate that by. And then we have different strategies that we really put our work around for a framework we have, and we use the HEALTH acronym for that. I won't read it off to you, but it's there on the right-hand side. But with those two foundations, then where we really strive is to create memorable experiences. And that's really what is infused throughout our organization. And we do this, we try and create memorable experiences for our patients. We try to create memorable experiences for the employees that work here, for the leaders that work here, for the volunteers that work here, for the physicians that work here. And that can be anything. I've seen someone give their shoes to someone that didn't have shoes and needed a pair of shoes to go home, to someone just picking up a shift for someone that needed to, be at a child's choir concert or sport game, to just a smile and to saying hello to someone in the hallway. And so these are small and large, but they're truly, what set us apart, and really what we strive to be is the only trusted community health partner, and to provide preeminent care. And we define preeminent as being the top 10% in everything that we do. And so this is kind of the pyramid, or our preeminent pyramid, that we work around. So just a little bit about us. If you go back, remember we had, I think, 80 physicians, 200 employees, 42 beds when we started. We now have close to 3,000 employees. We have over 1,200 physicians. We have a very robust both adult and teen volunteer program. It's a great program to get involved with if you're looking to get some healthcare exposure. And I'm sure Linda would be able to provide you with all the information on how to do that. We have a very busy hospital just in general, and you can see those numbers that we track with admissions, deliveries, ER visits. And then something that's unique to us is we are, I think, second to MD Anderson, we are the busiest surgical hospital within all of Houston. So between us and our 5 ambulatory surgery centers, we do close to 34,000 surgeries a year. We do have 3 robots on our campus, and we, I believe, are the first, maybe second, to just have crossed our 10,000 robotic surgery here on campus. So very exciting surgical program. And that 397, that will eventually grow to about 535 once our whole South Tower is built out. So pretty substantial campus. Next slide. And this is the geography that we serve. We really kind of start at 99, a little bit south of that, and then we're working our way up to Dallas as we hit Huntsville and Willis. But a lot of this aligns with all the population growth within Montgomery County and going north. But we really are on the northern side of the greater Houston area for the population that we serve. Next slide. And then this is a little snapshot of our campus, which seems to change weekly with all our continued expansion. But you can see us anchored on the east side by 45, and then on the west side by Pinecroft, and on that north side, Research Boulevard or Research Forest. We have 4 medical plazas on our campus, and this is where our physician partners and others office at. We have the 2 towers, the West Tower and East Tower that I mentioned, and then right where the parking lot is where our South Tower is coming up. And then we've added some additional parking to help support the campus. We've added 2 stories to where it says Garage 2, and then we've added some additional about 200 parking spots where it says the Northeast Surface Lot. So a lot of additional parking expansion to help support the campus. And so this is that preeminence. This is that top 10% in all we do. And this is really just the testament to all the hard work that the physicians do and that the clinical teams do each day. I call it our brag slide, but it's really just the outcomes of all their hard work. I think a couple things I'll note on here is, one, the Leapfrog Group A hospital safety score. We've actually been that 12 years in a row. I believe we're one of 80 or so hospitals in the country that can actually say that we've been an A grade for that long. The other one is our magnet recognition. So we are a 3rd-time designee of Magnet, and a lot of these other awards kind of spin off that, but it's really it's for nursing, but what I'll say is it really shows that we want to hear the frontline staff's voice. We empower them to use it, and that we try to implement many of the things that they bring to the forefront. And so it's really, it's a bottom-up type approach when it comes to being a Magnet facility. And then we love being in the community. We feel very blessed to be a part of Montgomery County, the city of Shenandoah, the Woodlands Township. Again, going back to our values of community and creating healthier communities for generations to come. We feel we need to be a part of our community. And so we're involved, we're engaged, we sponsor a lot, we volunteer a lot. And this is just a handful of the different things that we're involved with, but it's very important to us. It's one of our favorite things that we love to do, is be in the community. And we encourage every employee as they join the organization to pick something that's meaningful to them and get involved and to be engaged in the community. In the Pink of Health, we actually just celebrated, I believe it was our 20th anniversary through our virtual In the Pink of Health event this past year. This was started by several of the founders are in that group of Pink, with our CMO and past CFO there in the picture on the top right. This started just with a community involvement by several women that just wanted to get involved and help support, breast cancer. And this is growing. Just this past year in our virtual event, we were able to raise $450,000. We take this money and then we redistribute it back out to different institutes and not-for-profit organizations that support breast and ovarian cancer. The other thing that this has helped support is we are the only location, I believe in the state of Texas, that has a cancer survivorship location. And so we call that Canopy. It's located in one of our medical plazas. And any patient, family member, it doesn't matter if you're with another hospital system, it's really just a place of refuge that you can come. We do over 70 classes there to help support cancer survivorship. We have wig fittings, we have massage therapy, we have social workers, and it's just a place and a resource for anyone that may be anyone or their family members that may be going through just the terrible plague that cancer is. It's just a safe and a welcoming place to come, and that's what In the Pink of Health supports. The next one, this is always fun, and we are glad this is coming back in October of this year, and then we'll return again in April of next year, is the Ironman. But we are the sponsor for the Ironman. We provide all the medical support for the Ironman that happens here every year. So just a fun event that's really community driven that we're really proud to be a part of. And that's actually, I think, one of our neurosurgeons giving high fives as he runs along the waterway right there. So just a lot of fun for that event. And then TIER, TIER is our rehab center. We have an inpatient rehab facility under TIER. We have also adult and pediatric rehab facilities under TIER at our campus. Year after year, this just gets ranked as one of the top rehab facilities in the nation, and certainly #1 in Texas. And this is just a place where if any of us are ever having a bad day, we can just go up to TIER, and there are truly miracles happening. And there's also music and pets, and it's just a fun place to be. But we're very lucky to have this on our campus to support the community. And then I'll just end here, and this kind of goes back to just everything that we try to do. And it's really every patient, every interaction, every time we try to advance health, and we try to personalize care through the many things that I have talked about today. And we feel like when we do that, that the best possible clinical outcomes are going to happen, but there's also going to be exceptional patient care experiences. And that's what we recognize, right? It's not just the science, it's also the human nature and the vulnerability of when you're in a healthcare environment, that we are at the intersection of that, where we get the privilege and the responsibility to make the difference in someone's life when they may be at a low spot. So we're honored to do that. It takes all of us to do that. And I'm excited that you'll get to hear from some just true professionals today in the way that they do that and the way that their careers developed. So I'll pause there. That's a little bit about us, and I'll pass it back to you, Linda.
Thank you, Jason. That was great. It always makes me excited to see all that we have accomplished and all that we do for the community, and our numbers are outstanding. So now that you have a good basis of what is happening behind the walls of our hospital, we want to introduce you to some of our specialists. They're all hand-picked to present today. So Emma, I'm going to introduce first. So Emma actually talked to Corinne and to Monica and all previously for other EFTA situations. So she's back by popular demand. And what I've asked for each of them is to tell the students your journey as to how you got where you are today. What does your job entail? And maybe what's your favorite part of your job? Maybe what's your least favorite part of your job? And do you have a meaningful experience or a story to tell about what you do? So Emma, you're kicking it off. And we're talking somewhere about the 10-minute time frame.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. And thank you again for the invitation to come back and speak with you all. My name again is Emma Arnaut. I am the clinical director for our pre-anesthesia clinic, our joint center, which is an orthopedic unit, and then our post-surgical care unit, which is our 5 East. So a little bit about me. I became a nurse in 2007 at the age of 23. I relocated to Texas after 1 year of bedside experience in New Jersey, and quickly came to love the hot, humid area, and also then decided to go back for my master's in leadership and healthcare administration. After that, I did take a small hiatus from Memorial Hermann and started my leadership journey at another facility, and quickly realized that I missed home and came right back to Memorial Hermann. In the meantime, I did also have two children here, born and raised in Memorial Hermann, and also continued my leadership journey as a manager first, before then being promoted to the director level that I am at right now. So one of my favorite things about my position, I would say, would be watching others grow and being able to provide mentorship and guidance to up and coming healthcare professionals and those seeking more information about what to do with their career path and their journey. I think a lot of people do not understand what avenues or what opportunities are in healthcare. There's more to just nursing or understanding what they can do to speak into other people's lives and be a part of making a difference to and for others. So I think that is my favorite part of my job. And then also working with amazing people. People like Dr. Field, I can call or text at any time to say, hey, I need your help with something, or he can call and text and harass me to say, let's do something differently, or this patient needs your attention. So that collaborative effort and that interdisciplinary plan of care that we can present to and for patients and with the nursing team and our physician partners is really integral, and kind of speaks to what Jason was talking about when we collaborate and make better care plans and clinical outcomes for our patients. I am extremely proud to work at this facility, not only because of one of the accolades that Jason mentioned, which is that we are a magnet designated facility, but that really speaks to us listening and understanding what is needed at the bedside. So from the bottom up, not from the top down, what are the resources, what are the support that the care team needs in order to render that care that our patients need at the bedside, and not only the patients, but also the family. So that really does make a difference when you are looking at what facilities you want to reside at and do your career. I think one of my least favorite parts of the job, I would say, would be probably not having enough time to do everything that I need to get done. There's a lot of work with this job, but one thing you do quickly learn to do in the leadership role is prioritize and delegate and tap into your teammates to help you. So again, I can call Leah and say, hey, I have this issue with this. Can you please help me? And she can quickly use her expertise to get me the answer that I need versus the research and the time that I would need to get that answer. So really just seeking out other people to help you get what you need to get done. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about this team too. All the leaders and all of the employees really do communicate well to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done. I think your last question is if I had a story, Linda, I could share. I think a memorable story I would share would definitely be related to this past year. The last 15 months have probably been the most difficult and the most challenging as a leader with COVID and the situations that we've all had to experience. But I think it was memorable because our team really pulled together, and our team really, whether it was a good memorable experience or an unfortunate experience, we did it together. And one thing that I appreciate about our senior leaders is that making sure that they were in tune and in check with what the bedside team needed, and how we could celebrate or even mourn or even grieve with our teams, regardless of what the situation was. We did it together. So always looking back to say that regardless of what happened or what continues to happen, we still have each other and we still take care of each other. So that's one thing that really sticks out in my mind with my career as I continue my job.
Emma, can you briefly talk about what is the journey of a nursing education? There's a BSN, there's an RN. Can you just briefly talk about that?
Sure. So depending on what route or what specialty or individual preferences, there's essentially two different routes you can take. You have an associate's degree nurse, which is a 2-year program. And then you have a bachelor's of science nurse, which is a BSN program. And that's 4 years. So depending on what type of facility you're also interested in working at, it behooves you to also know what degree path you want to take. So for example, if I want to work at a magnet designated facility, which I just described as Memorial Hermann the Woodlands, I would probably want to go the BSN route because that is one of the expectations of all of the nurses to have a BSN or a 4-year degree to work at that facility. Unfortunately, some people don't have the time to do that or the financial means to do that. So they do take the ADN route and they do have other opportunities, but that wouldn't be for a magnet designated facility. So it really just depends on what your preferences are, what you're looking to do in the areas that you would want to go into as your specialty.
Leah, how many nurses do we have at Memorial Hermann the Woodlands?
Somewhere around 800, I believe. I can get you that exact number in just a minute, but somewhere in that ballpark.
It was always more than I thought. 800 is a lot. So for those of those listening, you know, just think one facility up in the Woodlands needs 800 nurses. Think how many nurses are needed everywhere. Any questions for EfTA at this point? Okay, thank you, EfTA. That was great. Appreciate it very much. And I learned things about you. I didn't know that you got your master's in the leadership role. Did not know that. It proves, it shows it, but now I understand why you're so good at that. Okay, the next person that just realized he was going to be doing this is Dr. James Guo. He's an anesthesiologist, and he was lucky enough to be sitting next to me in the physician's lounge yesterday when I said, anesthesiologist, yes. Past chief of staff, yes. Okay, and minute I said, he goes, yeah, I would love to do that. So Dr. Guo, tell us a little bit about your journey and where you are now. And things
okay,
like that.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. I truly, enjoy my job, and the partnership of Memorial Hermann has been great. I've been at Memorial Hermann at the Woodlands since 1995. It was my first job out of residency. I still remember driving by the hospital on the weekend, and there were no cars. Get this, there's no cars in the parking lot. Back then they had 3 operating rooms, plus the closet, which was the 4th operating room. So there's been a lot of growth since then, and I've just enjoyed working with everybody. Linda mentioned about the lounge. That's how Memorial Hermann has valued us, the physician partners. They've actually built a brand new physician's lounge for us, and that's where Linda saw me yesterday. And they really take care of us from anywhere from the physician wellness committee that Jason is spearheaded up to in any other little detail concerning any employees or physician partners. Now, just a little bit about myself. I don't want to get too much into it, but before I get into that, I'm glad to have all the students online today, because if you have any questions about anesthesia, this is your chance without having to go to the hospital to get your questions answered. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything about your career, just anything at all you want to ask me, it's fine. So where did my journey start? I grew up in the southwest part of Houston, back then it was a suburban area called Sharpstown. Now it's probably an area you don't really want to get too close to, but nevertheless, I caught the sort of the bug to go into medicine when I was in high school in my biology 2 lab, and we had a dissection lab back then, and I just really got into the physiology and anatomy of the cat that we had to dissect back then. But so that's how, and then after that, I went to Houston Baptist University, went to University of Texas Medical School in San Antonio, and did my residency training in anesthesiologist there afterwards. So briefly about what I do on a day-to-day basis, basically we, support any types of procedure, surgery, colonoscopy, labor and delivery, MRIs, patients who are claustrophobic that need sedation, anywhere in the hospital or outside the hospital surgery centers that require some type of anesthetic for minor procedures to major procedures. And we basically monitor patients, make sure that ensure safety, make sure patients are comfortable throughout their whole procedure, whether they're under general anesthesia, which means that they're completely asleep, or there's this under sedation, but they just need a little help in getting the procedure done. So we monitor the vital signs throughout the whole procedure. We give them whatever they need. In recent years, we've been placing something called nerve blocks to assist with pain control for patients post-op. So if you fracture a bone somewhere in your arm, leg, or something like that, we would, place the nerve block under ultrasound before your procedure, before you go to sleep. So you'll be numb and you'll be comfortable, after your procedure. So that way you won't need a whole lot of pain medicine after you wake up. And that's the intent, is to minimize pain and just make sure patients are safe throughout their procedure. Okay. We also deal with a lot of labor and delivery patients, placing what we call epidural, which is for pain control during childbirth. And we place it, with these patients are wide awake, and we can't really give them any sedation or anything for the epidural, but we basically are there to make sure that the mom and the baby are safe without, the need for additional medicine other than sort of the local medicine that we give them in their back injections. And we also assist in what's called cesarean sections when the baby needs to, obviously come out under a surgical method. So, and that's what I do in general. And I love my job, not just because of the people I work with at the hospital. I mean, everybody's great. You'll meet Dr. Jimmy Field later, one of my favorite surgeons. And it's just that the interaction between the hospital staff and everyone else, it's just a very, very, very friendly and just a fun environment to be. So, for the most part, that's what I enjoy by my job. It's just making sure people are comfortable. And the whole job environment, I like working in the operating rooms. I just enjoy people. I enjoy talking to people, and in general, it's very unlike what most people think anesthesia is. It's a very interactive specialty. Now, what do I not like about my job currently is probably you've heard all the regulations and things like that. Whether it's compliance, governmental regulations, insurance regulations, and just a lot of paperwork and things like that are probably the things that I don't enjoy a whole lot. Those are probably in all aspects of medicine that we have to work around now. But and so then, what stories do I have to tell? I don't really have a specific story. I just remember that I was on call the other day, and a lady who was pregnant asked request for an epidural, and I placed it like I usually do, and she was very, very nervous at the beginning, not sure what to expect from me, but afterwards she said, "Well, thank you very much. That was great. Last time I had something like this done, they took 6 stabs at me." And that kind of gave me a sense of really just, kind of a pride, like, hey, I did a good job. I helped take care of this very anxious patient in labor, and she was really happy afterwards. And that's what I enjoy, just patient comfort. And I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Yes, we had a question come in from Mason. So Mason, I'm going to bring you over if you could unmute yourself and ask.
Yep. So how could you tell that anesthesiology was the right specialty for you? And how long into studying medicine did it take for you to come to that decision?
Well, that's a very good question. So let me just start off, become a physician, high school, college, and then 4 years of medical school. Then you pick your specialty. So in this case, anesthesiologist is 4 years after medical school. Now, it's interesting because I went to medical school thinking that I was going to be some type of surgical specialty, because I mentioned earlier that, I like the dissections, I like the physiology, I like the lab and everything else. But somewhere between 3rd and 4th year medical school, that's when you start taking subspecialty rotations. And I think it was a combination of a lot of different things. The aspects of anesthesiologist kind of suited my personal, I guess, personality or interest. I mean, I like pharmacology and physiology and anatomy, obviously. And you know, I don't mind blood, but some physicians might. Then also, it also depended on the people I was with during that time. When I went through the rotation, there were a lot of happy anesthesiology residents. And so, you know, I started looking around and looked more into it. My advisor in medical school actually encouraged me to go into the field. And you just have to pick a specialty that suits you. And I've also picked anesthesiologists to be more of a predictability. I mean, we still work very hard and we still have to take calls and things like that. But to me, once I am, you know, out of the hospital and I'm basically done. I don't have clinic patients to see afterwards. I don't have to take, you know, phone calls when I'm at home and things like that. But also, you know, it's just more suitable to the overall what I was looking for in the practice. And it's a tough decision, I would say, for a lot of medical students at the time. But you know, it just depends your personality at the time. So.
If there's no other questions, that was great. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you have a meeting that you need to go to, or at least that's what you told us. But thank you so much for being on there. And I hope the students see how much fun we all have with each other. There's a lot of just communication involved. Dr. Bo and I worked out the same 24-hour fitness till he moved up to a more expensive place. I'm still in the, you know, the rare area. But anyway, thank you, Dr. Bo, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And you get to the 24 hours long before I get there. So thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, the next one is Lisa, and Lisa actually is filling in for Sarah Holmes, her boss. So she's kind of found out about that this afternoon. So we appreciate Lisa being on here. And she's actually, Jason talked a little bit about TIER, and Lisa is up in TIER. And for those students that watch very close to that video, when you heard that gentleman say, hello, Lake, whatever, that was the gentleman. And you might have even heard he was a principal at Lake Creek High School, and he was with us for 55 days. And that was his send-off. And his send-off revolved around all his leadership and all his fellow teachers doing a drive-by in front of our hospital as he was being discharged from our hospital. So he's somebody that's near and dear to our hearts for sure. And we all keep in touch with him to this day. So Lisa, with that said, and it's all yours right now.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for having me. Speaking about that story you just told and that was in the video, I was actually on maternity leave when that story came out, and I'll just jump straight to one of my memorable experiences. I was at home rocking my baby in my arms, and I looked up at the TV and I saw all my coworkers on the news. And I was just filled with joy to see that. And it was such a great story to see during such a difficult time. And really, those are stories that we have the privilege up here to experience so frequently. So it really just warmed my heart to see that. And I just immediately reached out to my coworkers and thanked them for all that they were doing, wishing that I could have been there to help them. So it's always nice to see that story come back up again. But hello to everybody. As Linda said, my name is Lisa, and I am a physical therapist by background. For those of you that do not know, Physical therapy is a profession that specializes in movement of the body and helping individuals regain movement after some sort of injury. And that can be anywhere from something like a break in a bone or a sprain, all the way to something extremely involved, such as a brain injury or a spinal cord injury. So the area of specialization that is available in physical therapy is really quite vast. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as I chat about my journey. I actually decided to explore physical therapy all the way back at the age of 14. I was a bit young and realized that with many people that I knew receiving physical therapy, that was something that I would like to do. And then to add to that, I had seen a movie way back then. It was called Regarding Henry. It's sort of a silly movie, but it was about an individual who had a brain injury, and it really told the story about his physical therapy path. And I really connected with that. And from then on, from a very young age, I really stuck with physical therapy and decided to continue that education throughout my college career. When I was going through school, I was doing my undergrad in Michigan, which is where I am from. I went to Grand Valley State University, and for physical therapy, you basically finish your 4-year undergraduate program, and then you apply for a graduate program. It is a pretty intense application process, something that you really have to set your mind to and plan ahead for. And at the time of my graduation, I was able to receive a master's of physical therapy. But now at this time, most hospitals and states are requiring a doctorate of physical therapy. So when you're looking at physical therapy as a profession, you're really looking at about 5 to 6 years or so of school. And when you're looking at your schools, you'll realize that many of these physical therapy schools are quite competitive. So again, you want to plan ahead and think about your application process and when you would be doing that. As part of the schooling, you'll participate in internships, much like physicians and so forth, and nurses. I had the opportunity to set up one of my own internships. While I was in school in Michigan, I set up an internship down here in Houston at Tier Hospital in the Med Center. And that is where I found my love. That was back in 2004. And I was extremely fortunate to land an internship on the brain injury and stroke team at Tier downtown. And with that experience, I found myself at a crossroads. Although my initial passion for physical therapy was sort of that brain injury realm, as I was going through school, I realized that physical therapy encompasses so many different areas of specialty. And I was also drawn to more of the sports medicine orthopedic realm. There's also pediatrics and so forth. So after that internship, I was faced with a crossroads. I was offered a path to go into this manual sports medicine physical therapy path with a job in Michigan, or to return down here to Houston and become part of Tier. I made the decision to come to Tier, and 17 years later, I haven't looked back once. I've really enjoyed being a part of such a world-renowned system, being able to help individuals with neurological disorders, both catastrophic and progressive in nature. It's when you have such a strong passion for it, you really do feel sort of this calling for it. And one of the things I've enjoyed most in doing what I do is that passion is shared by so many around you. We have such a great team, both really at any of the tier facilities through Memorial Hermann. The passion is so strong to help people. The support system is so strong to grow yourself and to grow each other. It's infectious, and everybody's willingness to help each other and the patients, it's really just astounding. I really, truly enjoy it. So there's that really big rewarding aspect that I love about the job. Some things that I may not like so much, of course, would be just always wanting to do more. And that's drawing back to that time piece. There's just never enough time in the day. And in doing what I do, we really, really, really want to help each and every patient as much as we can. And the hardest part, the part that I just don't enjoy that much, is wanting to help somebody more than I'm able to in that moment, knowing that for me in particular, I work in inpatient rehab. And so we're in the hospital and our patients stay with us is it's limited. And so their journey in rehab will continue once they leave my hands. But sometimes it's hard to not be selfish and to want to just be a part of that journey for that patient from beginning to end. So that can be very challenging. As far as a meaningful story, I started with that. That was something that just came to my head listening to everybody chat. And it really is hard to find a specific meaningful story. There are just so many. We really enjoy providing meaning to our patients' lives here at TIER. We enjoy individualizing their care for them. And so I could name so many examples of things that stick out in my head about how we've been able to provide these experiences for our patients. Some patients have been in our hands while loved ones have passed away, and we've been able to rehabilitate them and escort them to their loved one's funeral, or rehabilitate somebody to learn how to walk again so that they could walk their daughter down the aisle at her wedding, or to participate in some sort of graduation and walk across this stage. There are so many stories like that, and really just the stories of returning home to family. Each and every story is truly meaningful to me, and it's hard to name them all. I feel like I've gotten all of your questions, Linda, but I'm not certain. So let me know if I missed anything.
You got them all, Lisa. Are there any questions for our physical therapist here? So I'll tell you on a personal note, my husband spent 21 days in TIER, and you people are hardworking people. You had them up early in the morning and then you're still with them in the evening, and it's an amazing place. That's all I can say. And we're very proud to have you, especially your choice to come here when you had other choices and to stay. So Lisa, great. Appreciate everything said, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I thought it would be fun to have Leah Schultz on. She's the director of our human resources. And I asked her if she could just talk about some of the other positions that are open. A lot of people, again, just think there's nurses and doctors. And I asked her to maybe throw out some price ranges of what salaries are, so that you can have some idea what they make. Again, you have to remember, these are so just totally ranges. It all depends your years of service and your education and where you go and what part of the country you're in. But so it gets a little bit sticky, I know, but Leah said that she's up to the challenge. So thank you, Leah.
Okay, good afternoon, and thanks for having me, team. I'm thrilled to be here. I'll tell you a little bit about what brought me to Memorial Hermann, and then we'll talk a little bit about job opportunities here. I got my start right here in the Woodlands. I graduated from the Woodlands High School many years ago, and went to college at Texas State. Unlike Lisa, I did not have a career path decided at that time. Really didn't have a clue what I would do. My undergrad degree is in communications. As I finished up with college, I felt the pressure to figure something out. And so I really just picked human resources on a whim without much consideration. I started working in HR in the oil and gas industry and worked there for a number of years, and really felt like it was a good choice and a good fit for my personality, and allowed me to learn the business and be involved in a lot of different parts of the business. And so that was really neat. During that time, I went back and got my master's in HR as well as an MBA. I also had my son around that time. I had him here at Memorial Hermann Woodlands Hospital. And I was working down in Houston, and really felt that it was time to find something a bit closer to home. When my son was born, he was born with a birth defect, and we received absolutely incredible care here. And then he had some surgery down at Children's Memorial Hermann, and we got really involved in that team down there. And so when I saw this job get posted, I really thought everything that I'd seen as a patient here and as the mom of a patient, I saw an incredible culture. I saw people doing really meaningful work and truly impacting lives, including my own. And so I knew this was where I wanted to be, and really just hoped that it would work out. And I was so thrilled to receive that offer and be able to come work here. My favorite things about working here at Memorial Hermann are, first and foremost, the culture. It really is a great team to be involved with, and it's neat to see all of the amazing things that our caretakers are doing for our patients and for our community. When people find out that I work at a hospital, they often have medical questions, and I always have to say, "Oh, that's not what I do." To Dr. Guau's point earlier about not wanting to be involved in the blood and guts of things, I very much try to avoid that. But what I usually say, and when my son asks what I do, I say I help the people who help the people. And so it's a perfect opportunity to be a part of something so great from a bit of a distance. From an HR standpoint, while all of those things are incredible, probably my least favorite part of the job is we from time to time have employee issues and conflict that arises. And so working through those things is often rewarding in the end, but can be a bit painful in the meantime. So that's probably the least favorite part of my job. So Linda asked me to really speak to what kind of job opportunities we have here. And that is such a big question, right? We have nearly 3,000, probably 2,800 employees and contract employees and physicians here on our campus. We are the second largest employer in the Montgomery County area. Our jobs require everything from a high school diploma, obviously, up to a doctorate degree. You can earn anywhere from $13, $14 an hour here, all the way up to certainly well within the six-figure range. So there truly is something for everyone. I think it was Linda that made the point earlier that we often think of a hospital, we think of the doctors, we think of the nurses, and Linda, I pulled that number. It's not 800 nurses. We actually have 946 nurses here. So it is a huge chunk of our workforce. And EfTA talked about the fact that we are a magnet organization. And so we do, for all new nurses, require a BSN. And so I wanted to start with that job. And let you know that entry-level nurses earn kind of at the front end of their career around $28 an hour. There's an opportunity to earn as a bedside nurse up well into the $50 an hour range. So you can see, and I wanted to mention there that our nurses, we have a very set career ladder for our nurses. And so within your first 10 years of being a nurse, you have the opportunity to be promoted 4 times at certain stages within your first 10 years. And so there is certainly opportunity to grow and develop and get into different specialties and try different areas of nursing. In fact, probably this year more than ever, we've seen movement within our nursing team. So we have emergency room nurses who are a bit worn out from the pandemic, who are moving over into the operating room. And so there's lots and lots of opportunity just within that job. But I wanted to talk about some of the other both clinical and non-clinical jobs that we have available here. We have, let's see, we have a business office team, and they handle the screening of all of our visitors into the hospital. They handle patient account management and billing. So that's kind of our back office team that handles all of the financials for our hospital here. We have a chaplain team, and I'm not going to cover everything, by the way. I just wanted to highlight a few different jobs, but we do have a chaplain team that's available both to our patients and their family members, as well as to our employees. They've been instrumental over the course of the past year in ensuring the wellness and care of both our employees and our patients, especially given that so much of the last year we've been unable to have patient family members at the facility. We have a case management team here who works to ensure that our patients are prepared for discharge so that they're set up to go home or to go to the next level of care, depending on each individual situation. And they work closely with the patient and the family member and the care providers to ensure a smooth transition, to ensure that patients aren't coming back. As much as we love our patients, we want them to be able to move on safely. So they're another very important team within our organization. We have a materials management team. And again, as I go through this list, I really just think through the importance that each of these teams brings to ensuring that we can provide care to patients. So materials management makes sure that we have all of the equipment that's needed at the bedside and at the units. And if you come into our hospital, you'll see these people just moving and grooving day in and day out. We have speech, occupational, and physical therapist. You heard from Lisa, so I won't go into that too much, but those individuals are part of our tier team, and then we have others as well. So those are also really important in ensuring that our patients are set up well for the long run. We have an education team within the hospital, and they ensure that our new hires are trained up and that all of us who have been here for some period of time receive all of the annual training that is required for us to do our jobs. Also, we couldn't do it without them. We have a quality team and an quality and infection control team. They also, over this past year, have been hugely important in ensuring that we understand what the requirements are in this ever-changing world that we are living in. They do a good job of looking at all of our data and metrics and ensuring that programs and processes are put in place to ensure that we are providing high quality care to our patients. Let's see. And then I had a few groups that I pulled out and pulled salaries for. And those are our radiology team. And those individuals are our X-ray techs, our CT techs, our MRI techs. They do ultrasounds. And those jobs, I guess, as a whole, just to speak in general, require a certification. So if you're thinking about something that doesn't necessarily require a bachelor's degree, there are opportunities there within that team. Pay ranges in our radiology department start at the kind of low 20s and go up to the mid 50s. So again, we have lots of opportunity as you grow in your selected job and have more tenure and more specialization. There's a great opportunity to earn more money. And so we do look at salaries for our employees annually and ensure that we are providing pay for the great work that our employees are doing. Also wanted to call out our laboratory department. We have a lab here on campus. They've also been busy and pivoted to do different work this year than they have previously because of COVID. Let's see, that team starting pay is around $17 an hour, and excluding our leadership team, those jobs can go up to the mid 40s. And finally, I wanted to highlight our respiratory therapy team. We have a group of respiratory therapists who have the opportunity to make between, let's see, $20 and $50 an hour. Again, we are paying for great performance, and we're paying for the experience that our employees bring to the table. So with years of experience comes additional opportunities for pay. So the only other things, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there's something more specific, but the other thing I wanted to mention is the great benefits that Memorial Hermann provides to our employees. Of course, we offer, you know, your standard medical and dental insurance and those sorts of things, retirement planning. But what we've seen a shift in this year is the benefits that are provided to our employees for their own wellness. And so we have a program in place that offers a number of various benefits to our employees, and those include a counseling program where you have access to a counselor. Your family does as well. A mental health day that you can take anytime that you need a break. We have a wonderful tuition reimbursement program. And so if you're interested in coming on board with our hospital and you start in one area, we really encourage our employees to return to school and continue their education. In fact, when I joined the organization, I think I had my first master's degree at that point, and I thought I was pretty, unique and special. And I came here, and this is the most highly educated group of individuals that I've ever worked with, and it's truly an honor. But there's a high degree of educated staff members, and I think that is in large part due to the fact that Memorial Hermann does such a good job of supporting that for our employees. So I think I'll stop there. Oh, wait, one more plug. I just want to reiterate, Jason called out our volunteer program. And so I just wanted to reiterate that and let you know that if you are interested in getting your foot in the door, we do have a high school volunteer program that is available, and would be happy to speak more about that if it's something that you think you might be interested in. And Linda, I'll turn it back to you.
That was great, Leah. Thank you so much. That was terrific. I noticed you didn't mention marketing or business development or anything like that, but I'll let that slide for right now. Okay.
I actually had a note. I skipped that on my cheat sheet here.
You skipped it, right? Okay. That's even
I really
better.
did.
You had it. You didn't even mention it. Oh my goodness.
Well, and actually, it is a good point, Linda, in that we have all the jobs I mentioned are the jobs here on our campus, but we also have a corporate office with those jobs that still allow our employees to be part of our greater mission, but kind of from a back office standpoint, and that's IT and marketing and HR. There's a team and legal support, and so lots and lots of opportunities there as well. Good point.
Thank you. Good, lots of good information. I know there's a question in the chat, but I first want to get to Dr. Field, Dr. Jimmy Field. I remember when he came to our hospital with his wife, they came to interview, and we were so excited. We were getting 2 for 1, and we got both of them together. And then our friendship has actually grown through all these years. We've known each other for many years. And he's always my go-to person whenever I need something. So as soon as I was asked to put this together, Dr. Field was actually the first person I called. He just ended a 2-year stint as our chief of medical staff, and did a fantastic job carrying both the surgery side as well as the administrative side, and that is not easy. And in the slides that Jason showed that we had 33,850 surgeries, well, he probably had a very large amount of those. So he's actually the perfect person to be on here speaking with the students. And I know he loves to mentor and be in front of students anyway. So Dr. Field, it's your turn, and thank you for your patience.
Linda, thank you very much for having me today. I feel like I have to apologize to the students. Leah was just talking about all the highly educated people, and I get to follow that. And it just doesn't seem right that you get a moron like me to wrap all of this up. But my name is Jimmy Field. I'm a general surgeon. A lot of people always ask what I do. As Linda indicated, my wife is a physician, so when we meet other people, my wife's a plastic surgeon, and I always get the, oh, just a general surgeon. And we always leads to interesting conversations, but the reality of it is that 50 or 60 years ago, actually at this point, 70 or 80 years ago, when people went into surgery, they just went into surgery. It was not called general surgery. Cardiothoracic surgery, cardiovascular surgery didn't exist. Neurosurgery was very basic and rudimentary. Orthopedic surgery certainly wasn't what it is today. They didn't learn about external or putting rods in femurs until after World War II. And so everybody just went into surgery. And then when we got smarter, when imaging studies got better, when CAT scans got better, when anesthesia got better, when research got better, then cardiovascular surgery was an offshoot of general surgery, but you still had to do general surgery to get into cardiovascular surgery. Neurosurgery was its own offshoot from general surgery, and urology and just about everything has been an offshoot out of general surgery. And so what is left when everything has gone outside of surgery is what we term now as general surgery. But what my job basically entails, or what I'm responsible for from a general surgery standpoint, is basically anything in the abdomen. There's a lot of stuff in the abdomen: the liver, the spleen, the small intestine, the large intestine, the rectum, the pancreas, the gallbladder. We're responsible for, we manage breast cancer, colon cancer, thyroid cancer. We general surgeons are the primary care physicians for trauma. It doesn't mean that we're primary care, but what it means is that when somebody comes into the emergency room with a traumatic brain injury, collapsed lung, 10 rib fractures, a ruptured spleen, and a cracked pelvis and a broken femur, we take care of those patients. And then when the patient's stable enough for an operation, then the respective team can operate on that patient. It's a very diverse specialty. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy it, because I get to do so many different things. I can do 5 or 6 or 7 cases in a day, and they can be completely different cases. It's not doing 7 different hernias in one day. It's a gallbladder, an amputation, a colectomy, a stab wound to the abdomen. And so it's incredibly challenging field from that perspective, but it always changes and makes the day go very fast, and I enjoy that. My journey started back in high school. I went to Klein Oak High School. I grew up in the subdivision of Cypresswood, so just south of here. I graduated from Klein Oak in 1987. And I really decided I was going to be a doctor about 5 minutes after my brother told me he was going to be a doctor. I idolized my brother. He was 3 years older than me. He currently is an anesthesiologist in Beaumont. And But I owe my decision to go into medicine to just wanting to be like my older brother. And I'm so glad that he said that, because I honestly can't think of any other profession that I'd be as happy in. I went to Texas A&M University. Then I went to the University of Texas in San Antonio for my medical school, and stayed there for my general surgery residency. I had an opportunity to come back to the Woodlands in 2002. That's when I met Linda. And this was a very different place back in 2002, but I knew that this place was going to be something special because there was so much construction going on. I came in July of 2002, and in February of 2003 is when the West Bed Tower opened, one of the first new towers that Jason had talked about. It was a very exciting time, and to be honest, we quickly filled that building up, and the East Tower was built, and we quickly filled that up. And I'm happy to say that construction started on the South Tower. I'd like to think I had something to do with it because I was chief of staff, but it was just good timing when that started. But I think that this is a great area. One of my favorite parts of my job is being in this community. I honestly went into general surgery because I enjoy fixing things and having people get better. As a general surgeon, for the most part, when I operate on somebody, my intent usually is to operate on them once, and then they can come back to see me if they have another problem in some other part of their body. But it's not something where we're constantly seeing patients for the same problem. I enjoy being in the Woodlands, as I mentioned. One of the nice things about being in the Woodlands, and one of my favorite things, is the Woodlands is large. It's a lot larger than it used to be, but it's still kind of small, and everybody knows everybody. And so it's nice being out in the community and having somebody come up and recognize me from the hospital and say, hey, I appreciate it. You took care of my friend last month. Or, give you a story from Father's Day. I was picked up dinner, and my wife and I went over to my parents' house, and my mother was telling me about neighbors that we had back in Cypresswood, and how I was caring for one of their cousins, and they were very appreciative. And so it was kind of like 4 degrees of separation there, but it gets even more so than that. But it's really neat to get positive feedback just from the community about the work that we're doing. One of my least favorite parts of my job, I'd have to, COVID brought out the best in everybody, but COVID was one of my least favorite parts of my career. As Linda indicated, I was chief of staff at Memorial Hermann for the 2019 and 20 years, and 2020, don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what COVID did to medicine in 2020. We had tremendous highs and lows, both just from everything, emotions, critically ill patients. The thing I hated the most was having so many COVID positive patients in the hospital that it just overran absolutely everything. The entire hospital, everybody who has spoken today did a wonderful job last year of creating places in the hospital that didn't even exist as patient beds, and made them into patient beds so that the hospital could actually continue to function as a hospital to take care of the patients that did not have COVID but still needed to be in the hospital and be cared for. But a lot of good things came out of that, but that doesn't mean it's still my least favorite part of the last 2 or 3 years. One of the things that as a general surgeon, we face not infrequently. I mentioned earlier that one of the parts of a general surgeon's job is to take care of trauma patients. And as Jason mentioned, we are a level 2 trauma center. Level 2 trauma centers take the same acuity of patients that the level 1 trauma centers do, but we do not have the backing of a residency program or medical school that does research. And so when patients come in with gunshot wounds to the chest, abdomen, and pelvis, then we are having to take care of those patients here. One of my least favorite parts of this job is to have patients come into the hospital, and we do everything we can. We do everything that we can, and we do it correctly, and there's still a bad outcome. Sometimes that's because the patient was too badly injured, and sometimes we never really understand why they just don't heal. But that's one of our least favorite jobs, or parts of this job, is to do everything we can, and it's still not enough. Meaningful story. Oddly, this comes out of COVID. We've had a lot of patients in this hospital with COVID. Currently, we're down 10 patients plus or minus 1 or 2 just on any given day. But back in January, we were up around 100 patients, and back in July, August, September, we were up around 115 patients. And that's every single day. It's not just they come in, they leave. These patients, the sick patients, tend to be here for an awful long time. And so my meaningful story, and something that's kind of neat, is it really impacted every single person who's spoken here today. I was a patient who had COVID. I was a patient that required ECMO, which is basically a heart and lung bypass machine where the patients cannot oxygenate enough. And our CV surgeon was able to put cannulas into the artery and veins. I can't remember if this was in the neck or in the groin, but they had the cardiovascular surgeon involved. You had anesthesia involved. I had to do a tracheostomy and a peg tube, so we were involved. Pulmonary critical care was involved. The patient was on dialysis, so the nephrology doctors were involved. The primary care hospitalist team was involved. Respiratory therapy was involved. Physical therapy was involved. Dietary was involved. Any person that you could even think of, nursing was involved. Any person that you could think of that ever stepped in the hospital had a hand in that patient getting better. And when the patient ultimately got the tracheostomy decannulated, and so they were breathing on their own and starting to eat well, that was a very rewarding sight to have them come to my office. It's just a lot of emotions, because we told the family so many times that patient was not going to do well, but they turned around, and it was just very rewarding. Linda, I don't have a whole lot more to offer than that.
So I'm glad you spent time talking about COVID. We didn't spend time much talking about it, but it just rocked our world for the last 14 months for sure. And you were in the midst of all of that, because not just the surgery side, but the administrative side. You were dealing with all the situations that were going on. And students, you just heard how many people touch just that one patient. And you get totally involved with that patient. So to close right now, this is about a 4-minute video. I want you to watch it. It really sums up what Dr. Field just talked about. He didn't even know we were doing this video, but it shows how involved the staff gets with our patients. And Corinne, if you can roll that right now, and then we'll just come back for 1 second after that.
This pandemic, we have seen stories of courage and commitment among our healthcare workers. And a man who came very close to dying at a hospital in Humble is getting to thank the nurse who helped save his life in a very special way. Here's Chris Costa.
It's been insane.
As an ICU nurse at Memorial Hermann Northeast,
I don't know if you can really understand what I'm saying.
Christy Purviance treats patients during their final hours.
No one really sees it that's not in healthcare. The hardest part is, calling this patient's wife or husband and telling them they're probably going to die like this, and you're not going to be able to be there to be with them to say goodbye. Hi, Mr. Watkins.
One patient, Maurice Watkins, was on life support for 18 days.
So I can't wait to meet you when you can talk, and I'll be here. You got this. These patients, especially the ones that are critically ill in ICU, there's no one there beside them.
Christy was.
Can you blink for me?
And with compassionate care, Maurice began to recover.
I have your wife and kids on Zoom to see you.
I love you.
He literally was a silver lining in my unit.
Nurses don't usually get to see how their patients fare after they leave the hospital. But after Christy's sister nominated her to be a Mazda hero, she got to see Maurice and his wife, Cindy, again.
I just want to thank you and I'm fighting it back. So I'm actually standing here with somebody that helped save my life.
This will be the most rewarding thing out of my whole nursing career, I can guarantee. It is the most special moment I've had in my career to date.
To present to her a new car and a much needed smile for the gift she gave to Cindy and Maurice.
If I can just, put an extra smile on someone's face, I'd say my job is, accomplished.
In Humble, Chris Costa, KHOU 11 News.
So that sort of sums up Memorial Hermann the Woodlands Hospital during COVID. You've learned all different things that we do here, all different professions that we have here. We appreciate all of you staying on for an hour and a half. It's a long time for all of you to stay on, and I really appreciate my group here that stayed on this entire time as well. So Corinne, with that, we're done. Is there anything else?
Nope, I just want to thank you guys. I think I've seen that video at least 5 times and it hits me every time. So students, I know we can't see you, but I know that you know how to use the chat. Can you help me thank? I'm okay, sorry. Goodness, I think I cried last year in a panel. So if you guys can help me thank our panelists for joining us, thank you for the work that you guys do in supporting EfTA, but also most importantly, the work that you guys do to support our community and our loved ones and those of us that come through Memorial Hermann as patients or as students learning. Thank you guys for that. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate you. If you don't mind, I'd like to get a staged photo of you guys smiling. But with that, students, again, thank you for joining us. Hopefully there were little nuggets that you can take away that we talk about all the time throughout this program. And we look forward to having you guys on the last couple panels and workshops that we have this week. But thank you, Memorial Hermann, for just being awesome. So thank you guys.
Thank you.